All right. Well, hello, everyone. This is Connie Corrigan, and tonight it's tool time. And tonight we're going to talk about the 12-inch trimmer. If you don't have this by the end of the video, I think you're going to want to order it. It's so versatile, has so many great things that go along with it. I'm going to switch you to the upper camera, and you can see the overhead shot. So make sure this is pinned. There we go. Okay, so you should see my overhead shot of the 12-inch trimmer. All right, so when you get it, it will not have a blade and it will not have a cutting mat in it. This is how you will receive it. These two pieces will be in the box and you need to load them. The cutting mat, okay, it has different numbers. You can see a 1 there, and a 2, and then on the other side we have a 3 and a 4. So just like flipping your mattress, you're going to want to put this in and change it when it gets used up. So you just slide that into the very top and then push it into that little tray, okay, and that's in place. So I don't know how much you'll be able to see. This is my old mat. I just took it out before we started. I'm going to give a little more light there. Maybe you can see the ridges on it. So each of these lines, so there's 4 different lines, each of these lines will cut 500 times. After it gets past the 500 mark, you're going to see it start getting a little raggedy. So in order to keep nice, clean cuts, you're going to want to flip your mat every 500 cuts. Not that you need to count, but when you start seeing it look raggedy, go ahead and flip it. And then when you're done with the 4th one, then you can just throw that out and put a new blade in. Okay, your system comes with a straight blade. Okay, that's the one you're going to use 99% of the time. And it goes into this little housing cartridge. You flip the lid up and you're going to put your blade in. Just for habit's sake, try remembering to put the ink to the right and drop it in place. It doesn't matter as much with the straight blade, but when we start getting to the other blades, you're going to see that might make a difference. Okay. The flat part here, without the extension, will measure 1 3/4 inches to the right of your cutting line. And then to the left, this will extend the arm out and you will cut all the way up to 16 inches. So if you've got some really big paper, we can make those cuts. Now, what I want you to remember is when you bring that arm out, there is a foot, okay? It'll be in the down position. You're going to want to put it in the up position unless you're storing, okay? So with that out, this keeps the arm at the same level as the rest of your board. And I had to learn this the hard way, that all of this was on a downward slope and it was having an effect on my cuts. So if your cuts aren't perfect, then it could be you don't have that foot out, and that makes it very nice and stable out there, okay? To do a cut, you simply put the paper in along whatever line you want to cut, and you'll roll the blade, push down, and it will cut your paper for you. We're going to do some cuts later, so I don't need to cut this right now. There are some heavy dark lines on the base. Okay, there's a 3x3, a 4x6, 4.5 by 6.5, and 5x7. These are some common mat sizes. So if that's where you're going to cut, it really makes it apparent to where you're going to stop, and it helps to give you that sight. We also have a 45-degree angle, and I am going to show you later how to do a triangle cut with that, or an angle cut for the end if you want to like miter your corners or something like that. So it makes really nice triangles that way. When you put your paper in, you're going to want to make sure that you're cutting where you think you're cutting. Now there's a dotted line here, and you're going to think, well, that's where the blade is going to roll, and it very well might be. But what tells you truly where the blade is going to cut, there are two different ways that you can tell exactly where the blade is going to cut. First of all, on this box, on either end, let's get the angle right here. All right, so on either end is a little triangle point, okay? And there is a line on that triangle, and I don't know if I can get close enough to show you the line, but there is a line in that triangle, and that's going to show you exactly where it's going to cut. So if you're doing something like a cut apart sheet with the little borders and title boxes and things like that, that's going to show you exactly where your cut is. The other device are down here on the corners or on the edges, okay? And sometimes you need a fingernail to dig them out because they will get pushed into the edge, okay? So there is a sight line, okay, a little guide that will run all the way up and down and make sure you know exactly where you're running. And there's one at each end, okay? So you can put those, run those up and down and make sure it's exactly where you want your cut to be. For storage, on the back, there is a place to store an extra mat. So when you're at a crop, let's say you get to your 2000th cut, that's all 4 of yours are done, and you want to replace your mat, it'll be here waiting for you. And we have places to store up to 12 extra blades, plus one in the housing up front, so you could really do 13. These are all the ones that exist right now, so there's only, what, 7, 8 blades out. The front of it will show you the cut. So there's the Victorian, kind of a little raggedy edge. Decal's even more raggedy. Scallop, more of that wavy line, whereas the wave is more of the bump. And this one is the stamping, which is also more of a bump, but looks more like a postage stamp. Okay. Then we have a scoring blade. Now this will not cut your paper. This is just going to help you with folds and in perforating. If you're making things that you want to tear apart later, like a one of those things that you hang in the supermarket with your phone number, you know, buy my puppies, or yard sale, or I have this for sale kind of thing, that works really great. Or if you're doing something on a card where you want to pop out the middle, that works really well too. I am going to show you the scoring blades. I'm going to take this out. Okay, and yes, just take your thumb and drag it forward and it'll pop right out. Slide it in until it clicks and it holds it in place and they won't move. All right, so to do a fold, we take, that was the foot, because it doesn't need to be extended, it's actually making this a little lopsided, so I put it back underneath. We're going to take our blade out. I wouldn't store it unless you're going to do a lot of folding. Again, just for consistency, ink to the right, close the housing, and we'll put our piece of cardstock in. I'm going to fold this at 2 inches and press down. I go over it 2 or 3 times just to make sure that it's got a good fold in it. I do have to say, lots of people have given this warning, don't push so hard that you cut the paper. I don't know how hard they're pressing. I've never had that problem cutting, although I guess if you were doing something very thin instead of cardstock, you might. And perfect fold, all right? I cannot get that perfect fold with a bone folder. Does not happen. I'm just not coordinated enough. So love, love, love the scoring blade when I'm doing cards. All right, we're going to take that out now because I'm going to show you some cutting things, some cutting features. I'm just going to go through my checklist here and make sure I am getting all my points across. Right, we talked about the arrows. We talked about your guides, mat placement and storage, your extra blades. These blades also will cut about 2,000 times. If it's getting dull and that's the reason your paper is not cutting, you may actually have to switch out your straight blade. I'm actually on my 2nd straight blade. We talked about the scoring blade. Sidelines. Let me put this guy in again, ink to the right. Sidelines. On the right hand, or on side of this cutting box, you see that white line. That is where the blade will cut down. Okay. So if you wanted to stop and only cut to a certain line to make your mats, let's say, you can stop it. So that line is halfway or 1 inch from each edge. This whole box is 2 inches, and that line is 1 inch. Because we know this is 2 inches and we know that that's an inch, you know that you are stopping. If you wanted to cut to 6, so here's your 6-inch cut line, right? If you wanted to cut to 6, to get the white line to 6, the edge of your box will go to 7 because it's 1 inch. So that is one way of looking at your cuts. If you don't want to go all the way down through, then maybe you want to look at where you're stopping and, you know, be conscious of where the edge of that box is. Now, another advisor showed us this the other day. This is taking the advisor community by storm. But let's say you did want to stop at 6 and you're doing lots of cuts at 6. Right? What if you put a little binder clip right there? There we go. So that your cartridge stopped. Right now, if you push really, really hard, you're going to move that binder clip. But the idea is this is just a guide to say, oh, I'm done. I'm going to stop. Okay. So the binder clip is a really, really good method for looking at where you're at. I'm going to show you 2 specialty cuts that I think will come in very handy for you. The first is, and I'm going to use the binder clips to show you how I'm getting my sight lines. So I want to cut a frame. When you're using a piece of cardstock as your base and you're putting it on a CM page, this can start to get very heavy. And you know, most of the time you just want this decorative edge and you're going to cover the middle with a whole bunch of other stuff anyway. So why don't we just cut out the middle, use that for something else, and we'll have this nice frame. So we are going to cut this with a 1-inch border all the way around, okay? Which means I'm going to end up with a 10-inch square in the middle. So when I'm looking at this, I'm putting this at 1 inch that way, but I also don't want to cut all the way from the top. I want to start cutting at 1 inch. So I am looking at the side and putting that white line at the 1 inch mark, which is the very first line along the edge. And then to remind myself, that's where I'm going to slip that little binder clip in. Okay, so that's my little stop. And similarly on this end, put that back in a second. I know I want to come down to 11, which is here. And I'm going to take my other binder clip and I'm going to wedge that in. There. So binder clip at 11 and 1. Extend that foot again. Okay, and we are going to cut at 1 inch. All right, so I'm going to line up my paper, making sure it's straight all the way up and down. Just between those. Okay, turn the paper 90 degrees. And again, I'm lining that all the way down that 1 inch line to make sure I get a nice straight cut. You really don't need to push the blade up. It's kind of habit that I do. Quite come off the corner, but we'll fix that in a minute. All right, and at the 1 inch line. Just shuttling between my 2 binder clips. One last cut, again at 1 inch. And I have my square. And again, I just missed a little bit on each corner. So I'm just going to use my scissors to pull off what I need to. Sometimes I find that I don't press the blade all the way when I'm cutting. And so it will sometimes leave an uncut spot. There we go. All right. And there is a 1 inch frame. Put that on your paper and then you can fill the middle with all kinds of other stuff and you are good to go. Here you have this 10-inch square, great for cutting out mats, outlining, whatever it is, journal boxes, whatever it is you want to learn. All right, so the next technique only needs 1 binder clip. And this is called magic mats because you're going to be able to get 4 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 mats out of one sheet of cardstock without a whole lot of excess. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is we need to consider that we're going to make this into a smaller square. 4 1/4 plus 6 1/4 is 10 1/2. So we want to get this down to a 10 1/2 inch square. So I'm going to cut off 1 1/2 inches on either side. You could also use this to do a border. Border punches are in another show. If we're going to cut this at 1 1/2, you could also cut off a border and then just trim the rest down to 1 1/2 if that's what you need. So 1 1/2 inch border there. Little 1 1/2. 1 1/2 inch border on this side. Okay. And now we're going to do our mats. So what we want to do is we're going to cut at 6 1/4 to 4 1/4. So I will be, actually, we can put him in. We can do this all. We will put this guy at 4 1/4. And we're going to cut down to 6 1/4. So if I'm looking at it from above, I want that white line to come to 6 1/4, which means the edge of this is going to come to 7 1/4, which is right there. All right. I will admit this is my second video, so I hope I don't mess it up this time. Do one more side check to see that I'm at 6 1/4. Yep, 6 1/4. Okay, so we're at 4 1/4 in this direction. Of course, we're going to make sure that holds true again. 4 1/4. Stopping there. Now turn it. Go back to your 4 1/4 mark. Lay that 6 1/4. All the way down. There's one mat. Turn it again. 4 1/4. Second mat. Turn again. 4 1/4. And actually, you can go all the way down, and you will have one little square left over, and your last 2 mats. So there you go. 4 mats, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, perfect for framing a 4 by 6 photo with just a little touch of white around the edges. And yes, if you notice, this was actually the insert to one of the paper packs that I finished this weekend. So now I've got 4 by 4 mats, and I have been keeping a little pack of mat shapes over here. So hopefully soon I can use those to show you this is what a photo would look like in that spot. All right, so I did want to show you the 45-degree angle. I'm going to do that on this piece of paper. So what you want to do is you want to line up your paper less about where it is vertically, but you want to line it up against the 45-degree mark, okay? Now, if you want a particular length, then you probably want to line up the point with your cutting line. Of course, you can do that by bringing this down and seeing that your point hits the point of that paper. Okay, and now you have a very nice 45-degree angle. I'm going to turn this over and do this on the other side, and I know that's a different pattern, but I'll show you why in a second. Okay, we're going to do the same thing and bring you up to the 45 mark, and I'm going to line up that corner. With my blade. And this will go onto a side of your paper perfectly, just like that. All right, so there's your 45-degree cut. That's what you might want that angle for. Or if you're cutting triangles, well, yes, you can see that that's a little bit small to show you, but it would do the same thing. But as long as you're lining it up on the 45 line, wherever you cut, you're going to get that angled cut. So just like that. So no matter what width you want, this one ended up as parallelogram, but we could cut that off as well. All right, so those are the cuts I wanted to show you. I hope you enjoyed our tool time for tonight. Check with me next week. We'll have a different tool in the comments. Actually, pin. We'll remove that pin. Hey, there I am again. Okay, so that was tool time for this week, and I hope you enjoyed it. In the comments below, why don't you tell me what tool you would like to see me do next week? Okay, I don't know what night it will be, but we'll get something going. And let me know what you thought of this video. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.